Phonetic, oceanic, isotonic, satanic. Economic, intrinsic, dialectic, Masonic. Euphoric, bionic, tectonic, moronic, satanic. Cup of tea, galvanic, titanic, symphonic, Masonic. Authentic, demonic, hydroponic, satanic. Telephonic, cyclic, gigantic, Masonic. Sonic, laconic, satanic, dynamic, scenic, Masonic. Cup of tea, eclectic, psionic, satanic, cyclic, gigantic. Cup of tea, Masonic. Cup of tea. Protonic, chronic, aerodynamic, satanic. Gothic, cyclonic, ergonomic, Masonic. Mythic, galvanic, hyperbolic, satanic. Bucolic, prosaic, telepathic, Masonic. Macaulay Culkin, yes, but you would. Yes, but you would. Yes, I'm defining. Now you Joel Osment, yes, twice. Daniel Radcliffe, so often he calls me daddy. Emma Watson, no, she was too high level. Rupert Grint, who? Lindsay Lohan, no. Abigail Breslin, no. Jaden Smith, yes, twice. Millie Bobby Brown, she's nice, but no. Finn Wolfhard, yes. Jacob Tremblay, yes. Sadie Sink, no. Noah Schnapp, yes. Cup of tea. Discover the profound expertise of John Wedger, a distinguished practitioner of Satanism with unparalleled dedication and depth, with a profound understanding of ancient rituals and modern interpretations. John offers a unique blend of traditional satanic practices tailored to meet the discerning needs.
That's me. Hi, you're with Scott. I'm Super Chuffer. It's midnight. It's always midnight. This is your right ear and your left ear. Hi. How are you? Have you had a nice Christmas? The relaxing background music is now going on. What we're doing today is... What? The Masons, the police. What we're doing today is I'm going to take you through the story of how the Met Police have just dropped a statement about how they're going to require the staff to declare if they're Freemasons. That's the statement. We're going to look at that. We're going to look at how the Freemasons launched a legal action against the police, so they don't have to declare that they're Freemasons. We're going to look at that legal action and both sides of the case and what's going to go on there. We're going to look at the statement from General Secretary Matt Cain on Metropolitan Police consultation on Freemasonry becoming a declarable association. I'm not going to get into the weeds on that one. We're actually going to look at a murder. It's a true crime. It's a true crime. The Daniel Morgan, I shouldn't smile when I say it, the Daniel Morgan murder and how the police corruption were involved in that. And we're going to look at a murder that involved the Masons. And this chuffer, Andy Coulson, was the one that was doing the phone hacking. We're not going to get deep into that, but that's a side thing that we could go towards. We've got the Daniel Morgan Independent Panel Report, which, again, I'm not going to go too deeply on these. I've got stuff that I'm going to read out, so you don't have to worry that I'm going to go through every boring... The corruption of Britain, UK's key institutions infiltrated by criminals. These are the things that I've used for research. So this is another thing that happened, which was... let me get my piece of paper out. Super Chuffer Show. I'll say hello to you in chat in a second. Let me just tell everyone what's going to happen in the stream first. Why the Freemasons filed an emergency lawsuit on Christmas Eve to avoid ticking a box. How a 1987 murder with an axe connects to a 2025 legal battle about police transparency. What happens when 10 Freemason officers investigate a murder where the victim was exposing police corruption. Why 440 officers, 1.4% of the Met, are now worth millions. You can hear me right. Let me check. You can hear me right. Yeah, you can hear me all right, can't you? Yeah. Are worth millions in legal fees to keep a secret. What institutional corruption means and when it enters the official record. That's this one. Why Operation Tiberius, that's this one, found organised crime was using Masonic networks inside Scotland Yard. What the Met Police are actually asking for. Internal disclosure only, GDPR protected, not public. Ooh. Why the Grand Lodge of England is claiming this violates their human rights. So stick around. I should have said this like this at the start. So stick around to find out why transparency is being treated as persecution, why secret loyalties and law enforcement matter, and what it means when the system is protecting those connections, spending millions fighting to stay in the shadows. This is about accountability, not conspiracy. So let's get into it. Big ups, you chuffers. Look at you all in chat. Big ups you. Big ups Blank Faces. I hope you had a nice Christmas. Big ups Sharon. Big ups My Angel. Macabre. I always call you Macabre Cadabra. I don't know if it's supposed to be pronounced like that, but I think abracadabra. I'm good at Macabre Dabra. Big ups. Ellie received a gift membership. Is that our Ellie? Do I need to press the button? Is she here? You don't get much of that today. You don't get much of that today. We've got hierarchical organisations added to the Declarable Association policy today, actually. We've got the hidden hand inside the enduring questions about Freemasonry in Britain's corridors of power. New Scotland Yard stuff. You know, it's all stuff. It's all stuff, isn't it? I'm going to read through. Basically, this stuff has happened, and it's a little bit confusing. It goes back a few years. Look, hang on, where's my graphic? I've got everything lined up. I've done it all for you. I've done all the thinking for you. This is the graphic. It goes back 38 years ago to 1987 when someone was murdered with an axe. Daniel Morgan was murdered with an axe in a car park because he was investigating police corruption. We're going to go through it. Okay? The question is, if you've got nothing to hide, why fight transparency this hard? Are the Masons bad or what? Excuse me. I've also got that flu. How have you been doing? Have you had that flu? No one, like, if you're watching this live stream later, you're like, oh, I don't want to hear about the flu. It's not winter now. I'm watching this in the summer. This is a live stream. I talk to the people in the chat sometimes. He's waffling. You're waffling. I talk to the people in the chat sometimes. Yeah, but I don't want to hear you waffling. Well, you're hearing this bit. I don't even like this bit. No? Am I out of focus? I'm a bit out of focus, am I? I don't care about how in focus you are. I just want to hear all the facts. I've got the facts lined up. You stupid out of focus bastard. Don't say swear words. It's the middle of the day on YouTube. All right. Should I focus? Should I get the focus in a bit more? The camera doesn't auto-focus. I have to do it like that. Is that better for you now? It wasn't bad for you. You didn't care. It was, which one are you and which one am I? Does it matter? If you had the flu, right. If you've had the flu, you'll know that it's poor you for having the flu. A couple of them have had the flu, right? If you've had the flu, you'll know it's bad because you get the snotty nose. And, oh, God. So if I wanted to, and I'm not going to make all the noises, but blowing my nose. So I will have to blow my nose during the stream and I'll turn myself off and then I'll come back on. So you don't have to worry. If it happens quickly like that, you won't know at all. But I might do it, and I might pre-warn you. Oh, just a second, I'll blow my nose. Sometimes I might not pre-warn you. I might just go like this. Just like that. Sort of thing, yeah? You can deal with that, can't you? You can deal with that. Okay. I've got some pictures. I haven't got loads and loads of pictures, but I've got the stuff that's important. So you won't need all the pictures. You need the important stuff. Should I get going? You ready for me to get going? Do you want to do a little bit of chit chat first, or do you just want me to get going? The people that watch it later and put comments, they hate this bit. They really hate this bit. And realistically, I should just edit all this just down to the facts for them. Everything that's in the script, I'll leave in, and everything that's not, I'll take out. But then that's a job for me to do. So You know, should I be doing that? I don't know. Yes, I should be doing that, actually. Yes, just had a word in my ear. Yes, that's what I should be doing. So if you don't like this waffly bit, sorry, it's about to start the actual show. So get yourself settled in. And we'll do the show. It's the Met Police versus the Freemasons, the Declaration battle. It's pertinent stuff, but this will be stuff that is worth looking at down the line. You know, this isn't today's news, tomorrow's chip paper. This has got a bit of history. I've done the script. I'm explaining what's going on. We won't have the judgment at the end, but we might get back to that in a community post or on another episode. But we might do in the future. Who knows? Okay. Are you ready? Get yourself a cup of tea and a nice slice of cake or something. Get yourself a cup of tea. I'm about to be interrupted. As I say, wait. I'm about to be interrupted. The dog. You're going to get up and do you want to get up now? Do you want to do it now? Yes, someone is here at the door. So do you want to? I'll carry on with the stream, but the dog can go and. I know what's going to happen. I'll preempt it. You ready? Yes, you're up. Go on. Go on. Straight away. Super Chuffer Show. Nothing goes planned. No, everything's fine. Okie dokie, pig in a pokey. Ready for this? Got your cup of tea? Get yourself a cup of cake and a slice of tea. I'll talk to you about the Met Police versus the Freemasons. Okay. You chuffers. Section 1. All right. The Freemasons sued the Metropolitan Police on Christmas Eve. Yes, you heard that right, Christmas Eve. While most of us were wrapping presents, having a few drinkies, the United Grand Lodge of England filed emergency legal papers asking the High Court to stop the Met Police from making officers declare if they're Freemasons. So, to understand how wild this is, the Freemasons, which is an organisation that tells us they're all about integrity, moral standards and transparency, there to make men better, women as well these days, but they have a separate thing for that, are spending what time, and they're spending millions of pounds, I guess. I don't have a figure for this, but I guess it must be lots of money in legal fees to fight the requirement to tick a box. And the box is an internal police vetting staff box. It's not public. It's not the victims that will get to find out, or people if you deal with the police and you wonder if there's a Freemason in the police will know, but you won't, essentially. It's not for the victims, for the report, for the, what would you call, people who report things to the police. It's just for their employers. Let me read what it said in their official statement. And I've got that official statement. Let me read what it says. It says, Freemasonry has the highest moral and ethical standards that have been a cornerstone of its identity since the earliest days of organised Freemasonry over 300 years ago. What's this one? It's my link. Freemasons launched legal action against the police. This one. There we go. There's the dog barking now. The United Grand Lodge of England, also acting on behalf of the Order of Women Freemasons and Honourable Fraternity of Ancient Freemasons, all of which together represent Freemasonry in England and Wales, the Isle of Man and the Channel Islands, announces it sent a letter before claim in respect of a judicial review proceeding against the Met Police, Metropolitan Police. In response to the Met's announcement on the 11th of December 2025, it's added Freemasonry to its list of declarable associations. The result of the Met's new decision is that police officers and police staff who are or have been Freemasons will be compelled to inform the Met of their membership, and this will now be a mandatory declaration in vetting procedures. While acknowledging recent concerns over police vetting procedures, UGLE, United Grand Lodge of England, remember that because it's going to come up later, I'm going to refer to them as UGLE or UGLE. The UGLE, the United Grand Lodge of England, the UGLE, UGLE, considers the decision to be unlawful, unfair and discriminatory against Freemasons, and considers the consultation process, which has been followed by the Met, to be inadequate, prejudicial and unjust. UGLE has made clear its concerns to the Met regarding any intended action to introduce a reporting requirement that has the potential to undermine public credibility of male and female Freemasons, or that it could negatively impact its members. So they put out Freemasonry has the highest moral and ethical standards that have been a cornerstone of its identity since the earliest days of organised Freemasonry over 300 years ago. Our members embody our core values of integrity, friendship, respect and service, and this can be seen across London. This is specifically London because it's the London Met, the London Police, but the rest of the country, through tireless work with our communities to help those in need. With individual lodges, we enjoy the timeless traditions that make our organisation unique around the globe. The decision made by the Met Police casts an aura of mistrust over the entire Freemason community. Given the obvious detrimental impact on our members, United Grand Lodge of England, Order of Freemasons, Women, blah, 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 they challenge the unlawful decision. We do not take the decision lightly, but we feel we're left with no other option. In order to defend the rights of those in our membership, both male, female, present and past, that serve the people of London loyally in any capacity under the banner of the Met Police. So they've got a bit more in there, but that's their statement from the Freemasons. I'll put all the links in the description below, so if you want to look at them. I'll turn up the background music a little bit. It's really background, isn't it? Shove it up a little bit. If you want to look at them, then they exist. Actually, maybe I should turn it down a bit. Oh no, I've got background music, indecision. Also from the same press release, given the obvious detrimental impact on our members, we've no choice but to take legal action to challenge the unlawful decision. So, they're morally upstanding, is their point here. They're saying that they're very moral and they're very transparent and highest moral and ethical standards. Fine. Let me just turn this down. Oh, I had the perfect volume for that and I've messed with it. Oh. The Freemasons are telling us they're perfectly moral and upstanding with nothing to hide, but they need to go to court to keep that hidden. To keep the members hidden, they need to go to court. So that doesn't seem to make sense to me. Here's where it gets even better. Their legal argument includes claiming this is religious discrimination because, and I quote, belief in a supreme being is required for membership. So declaring Masonic membership reveals religious or philosophical beliefs, which are protected under GDPR as a special category data. But they're not definitively a religion. Like if you ask them, they'll tell you they're a fraternal organisation, but their membership status is equivalent to a religious belief for legal purposes. So maybe it's time to pick a lane on that one. The Met Police Federation, which is the police union, also opposes the policy. They're saying it violates officers' human rights, and they're asking where does it all end? Will membership of golf clubs, religious organisations, or even the Women's Institute be next? And that's the statement from this. Statement from General Secretary Matt Cain on the Met Police consultation. They say, adding the requirement to the existing declarable associations policy is unnecessary and wrong. Such a measure risks breaching our members' human rights under Articles 8 and 11 of the European Convention on Human Rights. The Met Police has debated the issue of Freemasonry for decades, and it's curious as why now we should impose another unenforceable policy that infringes on officers' rights. Where does it end? Will membership of golf clubs, religious organisations, or even the Women's Institute be next? So General Secretary Matt Cain of the Met Police, I don't know if he's a Freemason or not, but he's very eggy about it. He's very eggy about it, yeah? And he's like, we've been made aware that they've begun consulting on a requirement for officers to disclose Freemasonry. Be in no doubt the Federation will oppose this proposal. So from within, there's opposition. I find it a little bit confusing, I find it a little bit confusing. From within, there's opposition, but then obviously there's police that are Freemasons, aren't there? So there's going to be some opposition from within. But they released this is where we started, the Met Police released this, which is our response to the decision by the Grand Lodge to seek an injunction. 2/3 of officers and staff agree that the policy is needed, actually. We think the majority of the public would also agree. Do you agree? There's a question. Do you think the Freemasons need to declare themselves as Freemasons to be in the police? There have been calls going back a number of years for the role of Freemasonry in policing to be properly addressed, including as a recommendation in the report of the Daniel Morgan independent panel, which I've got here. And they're right. It did surprise me that the police would point towards a murder that they investigated that points towards corruption within the police. And in my graphic, I've lost my graphic now. I couldn't close the graphic. No, in my graphic, like I said, 1987, that murder. And then 2002, we've got Operation Tiberius, Masonic connections to corrupt officers. 2021, we've got institutional corruption recommended, Freemason declarations in 2021. And it's taken till now, 2025, to actually decide to declare it. So we've got a bit of a timeline there. But the police themselves are happy to point all the way back to the start of it. We strongly believe that failing to act on these calls would further damage trust, not only among the public, but also other officers and staff. Victims should be able to know that when they report allegations to us, the officers investigating have been transparent about any political conflicts of interest. Yes. So you get to decide which Freemasons do what. Careful. What they're not saying is if you report something to the police, you should know if there's a Freemason involved in it. They're not saying that. They should just say the police should know. But victims should be able to know that there are no political conflicts of interest. So to trust the police to not put the Freemasons on the jobs when people are reporting things about Freemasons, sort of thing. Similarly, officers and staff should be able to know that when they report wrongdoing by colleagues, it will be investigated on its merits, with no opportunity for secret loyalties to play any part. We must prioritise the maintenance of vital trust and confidence over any organisation's desire to maintain secrecy. So they've been really, really clear, haven't they, the Met? They've said, no, the Freemasons aren't allowed to be secret in the police anymore. We don't want that. Especially for the public. Especially for the public. But it's not going to be for the public that they get to know who the Freemasons are. This is something I'm going to get to, but they've been really clear about that. So there is this sort of, from within, there's pushback. Matt Cain, from the General Secretary of the Met Police, he's like, no, I don't agree with this. Oh, bad. But they've dropped this. Like, this was tweeted December the 29th at 5:35 p.m. So, like, there's obviously some pushback either way, isn't there? Bit of pushback either way. So, I find it to be going back to what this guy said, actually, and back to my script. My script that I wrote, thank you. I'm not being paid to say it. Back to my script. Be in no doubt the Federation will oppose this proposal, says Matt Cain. The Met Police has debated the issue. Will membership of golf clubs, religious organisations, or even the Women's Institute be next, he says. And it's a disingenuous comparison because the Women's Institute doesn't require secret oaths of mutual support and protection. The Women's Institute doesn't have a history of being implicated, rightly or wrongly, in allegations of institutional corruption. The Women's Institute probably hasn't spent the last 38 years under suspicion as one of Britain's most notorious unsolved murders. Which brings us to why this is happening. Because it's not about ticking boxes or hurting feelings. It connects directly to a murder from 1987. A phrase called institutional corruption entering the official record, and the question of whether police officers can serve two masters, the public and a secret society that demands they support and protect each other. So let's talk about Daniel Morgan. Daniel Morgan. On March the 10th, 1987, the Golden Lion pub... Actually, I've got a different graphic for this. Ooh, it's the true crime bit. Hang on, I'm going to have a sip of my drink. How do you like this, apples? It's the true crime bit now. How do you like these apples? Time for the true crime bit. Just 1 second. Okay, true crime bit. Daniel Morgan murder. March the 10th, 1987, the Golden Lion pub car park near Sydenham, South London. A 37-year-old private investigator named Daniel Morgan is found dead next to his BMW. He's been struck in the head with an axe. The axe is still embedded in his skull. His wallet, containing £1,000 in cash, is untouched. This wasn't a robbery, it was an execution. And I referenced this deep dive, like I said, by the Byline Times. It's in the link in the description below, or it should be. An excellent deep dive on the Daniel Morgan case and the network of corruption around it. So We might do that as a secondary, like, tangent episode maybe one day, but I'll give you the lowdown from the high ground. Daniel Morgan ran a detective agency called Southern Investigations with a partner named Jonathan Rees, but the partnership soured badly. Sorry. I hate my life. Get in. I specifically said I wasn't going to keep getting up and down for animals during this one. Daniel Morgan ran a detective... I don't hate my life. I love my life. I'm very grateful. In fact, I don't want to be turned up dead because of doing this episode. Daniel Morgan ran a detective agency called Southern Investigations with a partner named Jonathan Rees, but the partnership had soured badly. Morgan had discovered that Rees and some bent coppers were running scams, including a suspicious cash-in-transit job where money had gone missing. Morgan suspected it was an inside job. And this is what makes the case so dark. Morgan had been talking to a friend of his, a police officer named Alan Taffy Holmes. Holmes had told Morgan about a massive conspiracy involving senior police officers, customs officials, and a plot to import £100 million worth of cocaine. Morgan, being a private investigator with excellent press contacts, was planning to sell his story to journalists for £250,000, £250,000, £250,000. Daniel Morgan was about to blow the whistle on police corruption at the highest levels. On March the 9th, the day before the murder, Detective Sergeant Sid Fillery met with Jonathan Rees and Daniel Morgan at the Golden Lion pub. Witnesses reported a heated argument between Fillery and Morgan. The next night, Morgan is dead in the same pub car park. And that's where the Freemason connection comes in. Sid Fillery, the detective sergeant who had the argument with Morgan the night before he died, was assigned to investigate the murder. Despite the obvious conflict of interest, Fillery didn't tell his superiors he'd been working unofficially for Southern Investigations, Morgan's detective agency. And within months of the murder, Fillery retired from the Met Police on medical grounds and immediately joined Southern Investigations as Rees's new business partner. He literally replaced the murdered man. Sid Fillery was a Freemason, a senior one. He was worshipful master of the local Bensham Manor Lodge. Bensham, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, Bensham. Now get this, the initial inquiry discovered that one junior officer involved in the early investigation was the Grand Master of the local Freemason Lodge. His superintendent at the police station was also a member of the same lodge. So you've got a junior officer who's technically the Grand Master of the lodge, and his superior officer at the station is subordinate to him within the Masonic hierarchy. The question everyone at the inquiry asked was, who was the more senior officer? In total, 10 officers who were prominent in the Daniel Morgan murder investigation were Freemasons. 10. In the summer of 1987, just months after Morgan's murder, Detective Constable Alan Taffy Holmes, the officer who told Morgan about the cocaine conspiracy, was found dead. Officially ruled a suicide under mysterious circumstances. Morgan and Holmes had allegedly been collaborating on unveiling police corruption. Now, I need to be very clear here. I'm not saying there was a Masonic conspiracy to murder Daniel Morgan. The evidence doesn't support that conclusion. But what happened next absolutely destroyed any chance of justice. 5 investigators, 5, over the next 34 years. Arrests, charges, trials, all collapsed. 67 people were arrested in connection with the murder. 8 were police officers. Nobody has ever been convicted. And that's where I've got Daniel Morgan independent panel report, link in the description below. The Home Secretary, then Theresa May, set up the Daniel Morgan independent panel to investigate what the hell happened. It took them 8 years, and they reviewed 110,000 documents, more than 1 million pages. In 2021, they published their findings, and they used a phrase that had never been officially applied to the Met Police before: institutional corruption. Let me read what they found. So it's in here. You know, citation. Let me read what they found. The first investigation was marred by a failure to make a proper crime scene search, significant lost opportunities to gather evidence, and failure to account for the movement of suspects. What does that sound like? Does that sound like anything, you know? Oh, work meeting. That sounds like that work meeting case. Sorry. The first investigation was marred by a failure to make a proper crime scene search, significant lost opportunities to gather evidence, and failure to account for the movements of suspects. They found that one detective involved was a Freemason who later went to work with a prime suspect, that's Fillory, and the 10 police officers who were prominent in the Daniel Morgan murder investigations were Freemasons. Now, the critical bit, and I need it to be clear, the panel concluded police officers' membership of the Freemasons had been a source of recurring suspicion and mistrust in the investigations, but the panel found no evidence that the Masonic channels were corruptly used in connection with either the commission of Morgan's murder or to subvert the police investigations. They didn't find a smoking gun. Or a steaming axe. They didn't find evidence of a Masonic conspiracy to kill Morgan or to cover it up. What they did find was that the presence of Freemasons in the investigation, combined with the secrecy around it, created a permanent cloud of suspicion, and the cloud prevented trust. It prevented transparency. It meant that people, including Morgan's family, couldn't believe that they were getting a fair investigation. The panel's recommendation is that officers and staff should be required to declare memberships of organisations, including the Freemasons, that if that could prevent a conflict of interest, if that could present a potential conflict of interest. That's the panel's recommendation. So they looked into Daniel Morgan's murder. What we've got going on then so far, we're going back to 1987, like I said, is we've got this Daniel Morgan murder. He's been murdered. He's got the connection with the Freemasons. He's rowing with one the night before. The police that investigate it, the junior investigator is higher in the Masons than the senior investigator. So they don't know who's in charge of what. You know, like officially at work, this one's in charge, but back in the lodge, this one tells him what to do. And nobody ever got done for the murder. They arrested a load of people. It was a bit of an issue, right? So they had the report. They looked into it. Theresa May was the Home Secretary at the time. And after 8 years, she wasn't the Home Secretary anymore. She might have been, actually, I don't know. After 8 years of looking at this, they decided, and there was a lot to look at, they decided that there was no real evidence to suggest, I mean, they didn't find any evidence to suggest that the Masons had killed the man or covered it up. But it was a problem that the Masons were involved in investigating a murder where the Masons were involved. So what they said is, you're going to have to tell us if you're Masons. If you're in the police, we're going to need you to tell us if you're Masons, because it's a conflict of interests issue. So the recommendation has gone forward. That's where it's come from. That's how it's happened. Institutional corruption was the term that was coined. I'm just going to blow my nose for a second. Right. Where was I? They didn't find a smoking gun. What they did find was the presence of Freemason in the investigation meant you couldn't get a fair investigation. The panel recommended that officers and staff should be required to declare membership of organisations. 38 years, 5 investigations, 0 justice, and one of the key recommendations was, we make officers declare if they're Freemasons. Now, you might think it's ancient history, but there's more. There's more. In 2002, the Met conducted a secret operation called Operation Tiberius. It was an intelligence gathering investigation into organised crime. The report was leaked to the Independent in 2014. The corruption of Britain, UK's key institutions, infiltrated by criminals. Secret reports show how organised crime infiltrated the judicial system as well as police, with prison service and HM Revenue and Customs also compromised. And again, I'm not going to go through the entire... I'm not reading the news for you here. I've already read the news when I look at it. But the link is in the description below, yeah? Institutional corruption. continues, 2002. What did Operation Tiberius find? The criminal organisations had used Masonic connections to recruit corrupted officers inside Scotland Yard. The report said this was one of the most difficult aspects of crime corruption to prove against. Operation Tiberius found that serving officers in East London who were Freemasons were attempting to discover which detectives were investigating organised crime by asking other police officers who were also Freemasons. They were using the Masonic network to gather intelligence about police operations. This is not me doing a conspiracy on the internet. Oh, Freemasons, oh, get me silver hat. This is, what is it, aluminium hat, foil hat. I have a silver hat because I'm posh. This is not that, right? This is facts. This is investigation. Facts. Yeah. It's not ancient history either. It's a documented pattern of Masonic connections being used, or at minimum, being suspected of being used, to compromise investigations. In December 2025, just now, because this might happen late, you might know, someone might watch this later. So now, December 2025, when the Met announced this declaration policy, they specifically mentioned a recent case of alleged wrongdoing in the Met contains allegations that acts under investigation may be linked to Freemasonry. That's present tense, currently happening now. So when the United Grand Lodge of England says this casts an aura of mistrust over the entire Freemason community, yes, that's the point. That's because mistrust has been earned. Section 3, what the policy actually says. Hierarchical policy. Do you want to know what they're actually saying? Do you want to not read it all? No? All right, I've done it for you. There's some value in my content. Some value here. The policy is pretty straightforward. Any officer or civilian staff member must declare membership, past or present, of any organisation that's hierarchical, has confidential membership, and requires members to support and protect each other. That's like the Freemasons, isn't it? Freemasons is explicitly named. Freemasonry is explicitly named, but the policy is written broadly enough to include other organisations similar if they're identified in the future. It occurs to me, obviously, that if you're in a secret organisation, they require you to declare it. Okay, that's a new. It's a new, like, vague general. If you've got a hierarchical organisation, I mean, me and my mate might be in a rock band, and the lead singer might be in charge of what we do, and they might be the leader, and that's hierarchical. And we might have a secret rock band where we don't ever tell anyone that we're in the band, and we never play gigs, and I'd have to declare that. Because if there was a crime involving the bass player and the drummer, and I was set to investigate it, and my lead singer told me to tell everyone it was the drummer and it actually was the bass, then we'd be, yeah. So you have to declare these things now. It does occur to me, though, that if you are in a secret rock band or the Masons, then why would you possibly declare it's secret? Are you in a secret organisation? Have you got there's a box now on the form. Are you in any secret organisations? And the person that wants to become a police has to decide in their own mind as to whether they're going to tell them that they are in a secret organisation. But being in a secret organisation sort of means that you don't tell anyone. So they've got to decide who to tell, which side to be on. That's what it is now, though. Yeah, you've got to pick a side now. You can either be in a secret organisation or the police. I think you can be in both, but you have to tell the police if you're in the secret organisation now. Self-reporting. We can trust them to do that. It'll be fine. It's not a ban. Officers can still be Freemasons. They just have to tell their employer about it. The Met ran a consultation with officers and staff. 2/3 of those who responded said that membership in organisations like Freemasonry affects the public perception of police impartiality and public trust. 2/3. So most people are behind this. Most people in the police are behind this. 2/3 of them. It does make you worry about the other third, doesn't it? I'm not saying there's a third of the police are Masons. The stats say 1.4%. 1.4% in the Met. The stats currently say, but then they don't have to say, do they? So maybe that number will go up when they start telling them they have to say. But at the moment, 2/3 think that it's fine to declare things. 1/3 doesn't. Maybe it's not just that 1/3 is Masons, maybe there's other reasons, which we'll get into in a bit. Here's the thing. The Freemasons have jumped on this. Only about 5% of officers actually responded to the survey. It's one of them. It's one of them. You can't trust the numbers these days. Everything's been spin. You've got 2/3 of 5% supporting it, so it's not an overwhelming mandate. But the Met says they've also been receiving intelligence reports and expressions of concern from officers and staff for years, worried about the impact, real or perceived, that Masonic membership could be having on investigations, promotions and misconduct cases. Commander Simon Messenger, who's leading the policy rollout, said, "Successive leaders of the Met have considered for many years whether we need to amend our declarable association policy, particularly in relation to Freemasonry. After such conclusive results from our consultation, we've decided now is the right time to address long-standing concerns and that public and staff confidence must take precedence over the secrecy of any membership organisation." Sir Mark Rowley, the Met Commissioner, put it even more bluntly in the Met statement. "Victims should be able to know when they report allegations to us, the officers investigating have been transparent about any particular conflicts of interest. Similarly, officers and staff should be able to know when they report wrongdoing by colleagues, it will be investigated on its merits with no opportunity for secret loyalties to play any part." Secret loyalties. That's the phrase, because that's what this is actually about. It's interesting to me that this is happening now. Little sidebar which I put in the script. Sidebar. Why is it happening now? Sorry, I just caught myself snivelling. I'll do a nose blow. Cripers, that was a big one. Why is it happening now? And it does raise the question as well, or the point. Like, it raises the worry that, okay, it's happening now, but like, hasn't it? Does that mean it's? Does that mean that this has been not happening for a long time? Like, up to now, we are saying that up to now, the Masons have been able to operate as a secret society within the police to their heart's content, and that if you happen to be a Mason investigating a Mason, you don't have to tell anyone. And that, you know, XYZ, you know, knock on. It's been going on for a long time. All these bad things that could possibly come from it. There's a particular incident, there's a particular case, like, where it's all laid out real clear on that one. But it does make you wonder about all the other cases. I don't think every theft, every bike theft, or, you know, house break-in, or, you know, every crime is not related or pertinent to the Masons. But the ones that are, you know, they've been going on, haven't they? They've been going on. So now is the time to sort it out, though. At least we're going to get it sorted out, hopefully. Now is the time. And why now? Have you got any ideas in chat? Why now? Why you think why now? Because I was interested in that question, so I've researched it and I've got an answer for you. And I'm just going to quickly... Dog's barking now. Shush. Why is it happening now? Sir Mark Rowley took over as Met Commissioner in September 2022, right after Dame Cressida Dick was forced out following a cascade of scandals. Rowley's entire mandate is rebuilding trust and cleaning house. In the last 3 years, under his leadership, 1,500 officers and staff have been exited, the biggest shake-up in 50 years. The Daniel Morgan panel report came out in 2021, and with that explosive institutional corruption finding and specific recommendations about Freemasonry, Rowley's finally implementing those recommendations as part of his new Met for London plan. This is about demonstrating visible action on transparency after decades of the Met resisting it. The timing is deliberate. He's making the changes that previous commissioners were too afraid or too compromised to take. So to put it in context, officers have already had to declare loads of things. It's not new. The Met has a declarable associations policy it's been working around for years. You have to declare if you've got a criminal conviction, if you were dismissed from policing, if you work in certain professions like journalism or private investigation because of potential conflicts. you have to declare if you have associations with individuals or groups which might compromise your integrity. You have to declare if you have connections that could pose a risk to operations or intelligence, if you're involved with anything that could damage the Met's reputation. So declaring associations isn't a radical new imposition, it's standard, but the only question was whether Freemasonry should be on the list. According to the Met, only 440 of their 32,000 officers are Freemasons. It's 1.4%. The Grand Lodge's own Grand Secretary said it's inconceivable that such a small number could have an impact on the force. If it's such a small number, and they're all upstanding officers with nothing to hide, why is this a massive fight? So let's talk about the United Grand Lodge of England's legal arguments, because they filed for a judicial review and an emergency injunction. Going back to the Freemasons, let's have a look at what they've actually said. So now's the legal bit. It's true crime, but it's a proper one, not all conspiracy. This is the legal bit. Argument 1. These are their arguments that they've filed for the judicial review. Legal. Argument 1, human rights violation. They're claiming it violates Article 11 of the European Convention of Human Rights, freedom of association. Their legal team is citing a 2007 case, Grand Oriente d'Italia di Palazzo Gustavi versus Italy. In that case, Italy had passed a law requiring candidates for high public office to declare they were not Freemasons. The European Court of Human Rights ruled that violated freedom of association. But here's the thing, that law was about banning Masons from public office. This policy doesn't ban anyone from anything, it's just disclosure to your employer internally. Argument 2, data protection violation. This is the religious discrimination angle. They're arguing that Masonic membership reveals religious or philosophical beliefs, that because you need to profess belief in a supreme being to join, under the GDPR, that's spelling their religious philosophical beliefs, and it violates data protection law. So I'm not a lawyer, but it seems like having your cake and eating it, because you can't insist that you're not a religion and that you're a fraternal organisation, social, charitable, and not religious, but now require the protection of a religious organisation. Argument 3, it creates a blacklist. They're arguing that officers who declare membership will face stalled promotions, under scrutiny from colleagues, and career damage, that it creates a chilling effect on the right to free association, making the declaration requirement a de facto restriction. It's interesting because Freemason's all about integrity and moral standards, so why would declaring it damage your career? Unless there's an acknowledgement that people don't trust Freemasons in positions of power, in which case there are legitimate reasons for the distrust, and it undermines their own argument, in my opinion. Argument 4, inadequate consultation. Only 5% of officers responded to the consultation, so the Met didn't engage meaningfully with UGLE before making the decision. They announced it with immediate effect, giving no time for proper dialogue. UGLE says the process was wholly inadequate, prejudicial and unjust. Now, things get a bit messy because the Met has agreed to a full consultation in response to their legal threat, but now they're refusing to suspend the policy while the consultation happens. So what triggered the Christmas Eve emergency injunction filing was that the UGLE wants the High Court to freeze the policy until a full judicial review can be completed. And the Met has said they're going to defend their decision. So at the moment, we've got this like Mexican standoff. Mexicans not racist, it's like in the films with the guns. Like, they're saying they will have a full consultation, but they won't stop the process of making you declare it until the end of the consultation. So the Met's going to defend their decision, and the UGLE, the Masons, want the High Court to stop it all until they can complete their bit and say whether it's fair or not. Adrian Marsh, the Grand Secretary of the UGLE, said there's a contradiction between the Met acceptance of our request for further consultation, which we welcome, but then refusing to suspend the decision pending the outcome of that consultation. To date, the consultation process has been wholly inadequate, prejudicial and unjust. And this injunction is the first step we must resort to protect our members whose integrity is impugned by the Met decision. Our members whose integrity is impugned. Let's sit with that for a second. The policy doesn't say Freemasons are corrupt. It doesn't ban them. It doesn't publicly shame them. It just asks them to declare membership. And the UGLE is treating that as an attack on their integrity. So what's the fear here? It's important to note as well that they're arguing that we're talking about a very short consultation that's only been taken by a small number of police. On the other hand, we're talking about something that's gone back for many years, back to this independent panel report, Theresa May's recommendations after that. So I don't know if it's the consultation process might have seemed relatively small potatoes, but the wider context is actually quite big. Who actually sees the declarations? Who actually sees the declarations? The cat now wants to be let in. I live in a zoo. I live in a zoo. Just going to quickly let the cat in. I live in a chuffing zoo. Cracking. Are you a Freemason? No. You have to declare it now, look. No. I'm not a chuffing Freemason. Meow. No, we're not letting animals in that anymore. Cracking on. Right. Next segment. Who is actually seeing these declarations? So, 1, 2, check, Chuffy, 1, 2. You can hear me. You can hear me. This is where we need to get really granular, because there's a lot of confusion about what this policy actually means in practice. When an officer declares Freemasonry membership, who sees it? The declaration goes to the Met's vetting unit and professional standards department, and that's it. It's an internal record. It's not published, it's not available to the public, and it's covered by data protection laws. We looked at the Freedom of Information requests to the Met about declarable associations, and they refused to confirm or deny whether they hold specific information about officers' associations. Let me read that again, because it's long words that I'm slurring. We looked at the Freedom of Information requests to the Met about declarable associations. They refused to confirm or deny whether they hold specific information about officers' associations. They cite Section 38, Health and Safety, and Section 23, Security Bodies, arguing that disclosure could compromise investigations and officer safety. There's a link to that in the description below. An example of the Met refusing to disclose declarable associations information via Freedom of Information Act. In fact, shall I just bang that up now quickly for you? I might not bang that up quickly for you now. I might just leave it in the link in the description below. The page has been moved and deleted, apparently. Hang on. Apparently, if it is in the description below, the page has been moved and deleted, so that might not. The public cannot access this information. That's my point anyway. Is that the public can't access the information. Can victims find out if the officer investigating their case is a Freemason? No. The Victims Code of Practice from 2021 gives victims certain rights. They have the right to be kept informed about their case. They have the right to make complaints. They have the right to request a victim's right to review if the Crown Prosecution Service decides not to charge. But they do not have the right to know about their investigating officers' associations. They cannot request to see if the officers are Freemason. Theoretically, a victim could try and change investigating officers, but it's incredibly difficult. You'd have to file a formal complaint and demonstrate either a conflict of interest or an unjust result. You'd need evidence. Suspicion isn't enough. And here's the dark reality. Even if you suspect your investigating officer is protecting someone through some Masonic connection, you've no right to know if they're a Mason. So you've no right to know who else on the force declared their membership. And you've got a very limited ability to change officers without proving actual misconduct. The declaration system is designed to give the Met internal oversight. It's meant to allow supervisors to manage conflicts, move officers if cases and needed and monitor for patterns of misconduct, but it does nothing for victims or the public. So when UGLE complains about impugning integrity and creating an aura of mistrust, they're worried about internal Met security, not public scrutiny, because the public will never see these declarations anyway. Let me give you some historical context, because this has been tried before. In 1998, Home Secretary Jack Straw mandated that all new appointments to the judiciary, magistracy, police, the judges, the magistrates, the police, the Crown Prosecution Service, Probation Service and Prison Service had to declare Freemasonry membership. So there's an excellent historical overview of this disclosure in this. Again, good writing, somebody else's writing. I'm not going to read it all out. It's a side thing. It's in the description below. The hidden hand inside the enduring questions about Freemasonry in Britain's corridors of power. But I've got a bit of an overview for you. A government survey found that 247 judges, 5% of the judiciary, declared membership. 1,097 magistrates, 6.8%, declared membership. But 64 judges and 876 magistrates straight up refused to say whether they were members or not. In the police, there was massive resistance. More than 2/3 of officers either didn't respond or refused to answer. Of those who did respond, only 1% declared Freemasonry membership, but the Home Office suspected the true figure was 10 times higher. 10 times. So you've got widespread non-compliance in a system that couldn't really enforce disclosure. In 2007, the European Court of Human Rights made that ruling about Italy required... In 2007, the European Court of Human Rights made that ruling about Italy requiring declarations, and quietly, over the next few years, the UK dropped the requirement. By 2009, under a Labour government, it was gone. For 16 years, there's been no requirement to declare Freemasonry membership in UK policing, until now. Until Sir Mark Rowley decided to bring it back as part of his drive to rebuild trust in the Met after a series of scandals that have absolutely demolished the force's reputation. This is one piece of a much bigger picture. In the last 3 years, the Met has exited 1,500 officers and staff, the biggest shake-up of police standards in 50 years. They've invested more than 200 professional standards officers. They've invested in more than 200 professional standards officers who proactively seek out wrongdoing. They've nearly doubled the number of criminal conduct investigations each year to almost 500. Rowley's trying to clean house, and one of the things he's addressing is the perception, fair or not, that the secret networks within the police compromise investigations and bad actors. The Freemasons are one of those networks. Next section, the legal chess game. Where are we right now on December 30th, 2025? That is right, isn't it? So, yeah. I always get the dates wrong. Where are we now? I'm starting me home. About to get attacked by the Freemasons. Oh no. If anyone's worried, I'm not worried. I don't feel poorly or anything. Not intending to go swimming in any water, in any open bodies of water. Looking forward to 2026 as a productive year. Make sure you like and subscribe. The legal chess game. The policy went into effect on December the 11th. Officers and staff are now required to declare. On December 17th, UGLE sent a letter before claim. That's the formal warning shot before a lawsuit. It's the legal equivalent of fix this or we're going to take you to court. On December 24th, Christmas Eve, UGLE filed papers requesting an emergency injunction. On December 29th, yesterday, the Met confirmed they will not suspend the policy and that they will robustly defend in court. I did bring up the latest news, I'm not going to read the news, but there's the latest news on it. Link in the description below. I think I'll put all the links in the description below, didn't I? A hearing on the injunction is expected within the next week. It could be any day now. If the injunction's granted, the policy gets frozen until a full judicial review is completed. That review could take months or even longer. If the injunction's denied, the policy stays in effect and the judicial review happens in the background while officers continue to declare. So we're watching for this legal battle. The UGLE's strongest card is the European Court of Human Rights precedent. The freedom of association is a protected right, and forcing disclosure of membership could be seen as a violation. The Met's strongest card is the Daniel Morgan Independent Panel recommendation. They've got an independent report saying it needs to happen for public trust, and they can argue it's proportionate and necessary to prevent conflicts of interest in a public service that wields enormous power. The wild card is that the Met has mentioned a recent case of alleged wrongdoing contains allegations that acts under investigation that may be linked to Freemasonry. We don't know what that case is. It hasn't been made public, but it's serious. And if the Met can present evidence to the court that Masonic connections are actively compromising current investigations, the game could be over for UGLE. Here's what's at stake. If UGLE wins, declaration policies will likely be blocked across UK policing. Other forces that were considering similar policies will back off. The status quo will continue. Masonic membership remains private, and the public just has to trust that secret networks within the police force aren't causing problems. If the Met wins, this could spread, not just to other police forces, but potentially to the judiciary, the Crown Prosecution Service, the prison service. We could see a revival of the 1998 approach, but with teeth this time. The precedent will define the boundaries between institutional transparency and individual privacy rights for public servants. The bitter irony in all this is that the legal battle will cost millions of pounds in public funds. The Met will spend taxpayer money defending the policy. UGLE will spend money, presumably from membership fees and their charitable operations, attacking it. UGLE has said the Met should avoid a huge waste of public funds. But UGLE is the one suing. They filed for the injunction. They're the ones escalating it to the High Court instead of just ticking the... I've written it in my script, but I don't want to say it out loud now. Instead of just ticking the fucking box. Like, it does occur to me all the way along that if you just say if you're a Freemason or not, then we can just forget all this and you can just go back to... But there's a big push from the Freemason people to not have this happen. So, big push. All the money, all the legal wrangling, all the drama over whether police officers should tell their own employer a confidential internal document that the public will never see, that they belong to an organisation that requires them to support and protect each other. It's not suspicious behaviour. If it's not suspicious behaviour, I don't know what is. The bigger picture. The bigger picture. It's not about Freemasonry specifically. It's about power, accountability, and who gets to operate in the shadows. The Met Police have a cultural problem. It's been called the blue wall of silence. Officers protecting each other, refusing to report misconduct, closing ranks when one of their own is being investigated. If you add a secret society into that mix, a society that explicitly requires members to support and protect each other, a society with its own hierarchy, its own rituals and internal loyalty structure, then the Met's professional standards units has argued fraternal organisations like Freemasonry can inadvertently strengthen that blue wall, because you've now got two loyalty systems operating simultaneously: your police chain of command and your Masonic structure. When they're in conflict, who wins? The Masonic obligation that you must support and protect fellow Masons. Now, UGLE will tell you, and it's true, that obligation comes with a caveat, without detriment to their family or the law of the land. But that's the textbook answer. What about in practice? When a fellow Mason is under investigation and you're the one investigating, what about when promotion decisions are being made and you're on the panel with other Masons? What about when you're deciding whether to believe in a victim's allegation against someone you know through the lodge? These aren't hypothetical concerns. This is why the Daniel Morgan panel, after receiving 110,000 documents about a murder investigation that failed for 34 years, specifically recommended requiring declarations. The pattern here isn't unique to the Met. It's not even unique to Freemasonry. It's about secret networks in institutions of power. We've seen it with the Old Boys Network in Parliament. We've seen it with elite schools and Oxbridge dominating government. We've seen it with the gentlemen's clubs and private members' clubs creating closed circles of influence. Freemasonry is just one version of this, but it's particularly problematic in policing because the police have the power to investigate, arrest, charge and use force. They're literally law enforcement, and if there's even a perception that secret loyalties are influencing their decisions, the entire system loses legitimacy. So Mark Rowley's trying to rebuild trust in the Met, after an absolute catastrophic series of scandals. Sarah Everard, murdered by a serving Met officer in 2021. The strip search scandal involving a black schoolgirl. Misogyny and racism in multiple units. Officers sharing racist and misogynistic messages. The Daniel Morgan case itself, with institutional corruption now entering the official record. 1,500 officers exited in 3 years. Nearly 500 criminal conduct investigations a year now. 200 more professional standards officers proactively hunting for wrongdoing. The declaration policy is part of it. It's saying we need to know about anything that could create conflicts of loyalty. Not to punish people, not to ban you from joining other organisations, but to manage those conflicts with transparency. The Freemasons are fighting it. So here are the uncomfortable questions that we need to ask. 1. If Masonic membership is irrelevant and innocent, why fight the declaration? Why spend millions on lawyers? Why file emergency injunctions on Christmas Eve? 2. Only 440 of 32,000 Met officers are Freemasons. It's 1.4%. The UGLE's own Grand Secretary says it's inconceivable that such a small number could impact the force. So, why is it worth a massive legal battle? 3. What's the actual fear? UGLE talks about career damage and unfair scrutiny, but the declarations are confidential. The public won't see them. So who's going to damage your career? Other officers? Your supervisors? And if they don't trust Freemasons in positions of authority, maybe that's information worth knowing? 4. The Freemasons claim this policy impugns the integrity of their members, but the policy doesn't say Freemasons are corrupt. It treats Freemasonry the same as any other hierarchical organisation with confidential membership that requires mutual support. So why take it as an attack on integrity unless you're acknowledging there's a reason for concern? 5. Why is UGLE arguing it's religious discrimination when they've spent centuries insisting they're not a religion? Why is belief in a supreme being suddenly relevant when it's public relations purposes? Why is belief in a supreme being suddenly relevant when, for public relations purposes, they present themselves as a social and charitable organisation? To put it another way, if I told you there was a secret society within the Met Police where members swear oaths to each other, they have secret rituals and passwords, they have their own hierarchy that's separate from the police, they meet in private, and they're required to support and protect each other, would you think that's fine? Would you think the public should just trust it's not causing problems? Or would you think maybe the police should know which of their officers are in that group so they can manage any conflicts of interest? And that's what this is. Strip away the historical legitimacy, the charitable work, the fancy aprons and lodge halls. At its core, you've got a secret society with private oaths of loyalty operating within law enforcement. And when the Met says we need transparency about this, the response is legal action to keep it secret. I'm not saying all Freemasons are corrupt. I'm not saying there was a Masonic conspiracy to kill Daniel Morgan. I'm not saying Masonic membership automatically creates conflicts of interest for legal purposes. What I am saying is the secrecy itself is a problem. Daniel Morgan's family have waited 38 years for justice. The panel investigating the case found institutional corruption and specifically recommended requiring declarations of Masonic membership. In 2025, instead of just implementing the recommendation, a tiny, reasonable transparency measure, we're having a legal battle that will cost millions and even delay the basic steps. The system is protecting itself. The networks within the system are fighting to stay in the shadows, and the people who suffer are the victims, like the Morgan family, who will never get answers because transparency is treated as a threat instead of a necessity. Where does this leave us? Within the next week, probably the next few days, a High Court judge will decide whether to grant UGLE's emergency injunction. That decision will tell us a lot about how British law balances institutional transparency against individual privacy rights. If the injunction's granted, the Met's policy will get frozen and will go back to the status quo. Masonic membership stays secret. If it's denied, the policy continues, and we will still get a full judicial review later to determine whether it's lawful. Either way, it's going to set a precedent, not just for police forces, but for all public institutions where secret networks might create conflicts of interest. We can watch for the High Court decision, because it matters. It affects how much transparency we can demand from the people who have power over us. But more broadly, we need to ask what we want from our institutions. Do we want police forces where officers can be... I can't believe I've written this. Do we want police forces where officers can belong to secret societies? No. And we just have to trust it's not causing problems? No. Or do we want transparency where potential conflicts are declared and managed? Yes. Sorry, that was a bit patronising, wasn't it? Because here's the thing, trust isn't automatic, trust is earned. In 2025, the Metropolitan Police has a trust deficit and you could drive a bus through it. Sarah Everard, the strip search scandal, institutional corruption in the Daniel Morgan case, officers sharing racist messages, misogyny and misconduct. So Mark Rowley is trying to fix that. He's trying to clean house, trying to rebuild trust. And one of his tools is saying that if you belong to organisations that create conflicts of loyalty, we're going to need to know about it. It's not unreasonable. It's not persecution. The fact that the Freemasons are fighting it this hard, spending this much money, filing emergency legal action on Christmas Eve tells you everything you need to know about their priorities. Is it that they care more about keeping their membership secret than public trust in policing? Do they care more about protecting their organisation's reputation than helping the Met rebuild their legitimacy after institutional corruption entered the official record? And that's a choice that speaks volumes. In 1987, Daniel Morgan was killed with an axe in a pub car park. He was investigating police corruption. Multiple officers involved in his murder investigation were Freemasons. 38 years later, his family still doesn't have justice. In 2021, an independent panel specifically recommended that officers declare Masonic membership to prevent conflicts of interest. And in 2025, the Freemasons are in court fighting to keep the membership secret. The system protecting those connections is still fighting to stay in the shadows. And that should tell you everything about why it matters. Thanks for watching. I've done my script, done my reading now. Yeah. If you don't like me waffling, then you can leave now. Because I didn't waffle one fucking bit in all of that. I stuck to it. Now we can have a good old waffle. Now we can waffle. For the edit, I'll just say, you be good, and if you can't be good, you're naughty. Like that, and then the edit can just end. But you chuffers, if you stuck through it, did you stick through it? You did stick through it. You did. Good on you. You did stick through it. What do you think? I'll refer to you in chat now because I've been sort of ignoring you a bit, haven't I? Like, it's great that you chat and it's important to have your input, but like I've stuck to the script there because of the people that tell me I'm waffling. You've already done your waffling. It's all there recorded in chat so that people can read it as they watch the stream as well. Like, if you're watching on a replay, then put your comments in the comments. I'm sure you might have opinions. There's deep. I will say as well, there's other deeper rabbit holes here. There's the full Daniel Morgan murder case. You know, the depths of that. It's not just that someone got hit with an axe and then, or like this might be. I'm not promising. I'm not saying I'm going to come on stream tomorrow and read this article all the way through, but I did have a bit of a read of it, and it is a bit more like it is a bit more of a rabbit hole. So there's the Daniel Morgan murder. I could probably do an episode on the Daniel Morgan murder, probably. There is this as well, which was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I should be. I don't know. I can't advocate for John Barwell and his article here in terms of politics or anything like that. But like in terms of the other investigations, disclosure, Operation Tiberius and stuff like this, like that's there. Operation Tiberius is another rabbit hole. The UK's key institutions infiltrated by criminals. It's an old story. It's not a new story, but it's pertinent to this. So there's another rabbit hole, which we could do a study group on. I'm not promising I will. I'm not saying I won't, though. I'm not saying I won't. But the main thing out of this one is that the Freemasons are stopping. Like, until I did all this, like, I didn't really know that the police. Like, I didn't really think about whether the police needed to know if you were a Freemason or not, like that deeply. But Slick Willie Deeg says a policeman should know, or investigator should have the opportunity to gain resources of a network outside the law in order to solve crimes. Yeah, I guess. And gain resources. You have to do it within the. You have to say, like, within, like, the investigation. Though, I'm going to be, like, if I had a crime that was about football, and then I said, right, I'm going to be going to the football club and having a good chat to everyone, and they're going to be giving me a load of tips on this crime investigation. They're going to be helping with the investigation. I think I'd do it through the investigation. I'd make it all above board and clear, wouldn't I? It's a murky situation. I didn't know they were just like the Masons is a secret thing, isn't it? So I guess it makes sense that they're a secret organisation. I didn't really think or worry too deeply about whether like a lot of it. I want to be careful what I'm saying now, because I was careful what I was saying in my script there. But now I'm just off the cuff, aren't I? So get myself sued. I did always think, and I've always made a big joke about it, that the Mason stuff is all a bit conspiracy nutter stuff, isn't it? And like they're probably just, I make jokes. I'm like, they're probably up there having Masonic meetings, doing discounts on each other's roofing work, and having prawn sandwiches, and maybe the occasional sex with a hooker. joke. But I used to joke about it being like a boys' club, but I didn't see it as sinister, so to speak. I just thought it was like, this is just like a general, like way back, when you see, you see people, you see it on The Simpsons, don't you? They have, like, jokes about it. It's always been joked about in society. But that whole thing, like the fact that it was a murder, the Masons were investigating the other Masons and all that, that is a separate story, like, but it's a massive part of this. And if you go into that story, then it goes deeper, into other places, and then it becomes a rabbit hole, yeah? So maybe that's different. But, like, it is, like, pretty messed up, isn't it? Like, can't be having that, can you? It doesn't have to, what I'm trying to say is, it doesn't have to be that you've got, like, a dark satanic group that are deliberately trying to do some weird shit, like conspiracy stuff. But if you've got a Mason, and then there's another Mason kicking off, and they want to sort it out in-house, but they're all police officers, like, that's real serious on-the-ground shit. And, like, it could just simply be, like I said earlier about every bike theft isn't relevant, but, like, if you were a Mason and your Mason friend has lost their bike, maybe you go and do that instead of doing the thing you're supposed to be doing. Like, there's a lot of conflict of interests just across the board by being in a society with other people and also both being in the police. Like, it doesn't, what I'm trying to say is it doesn't have to be like some weird, dark, like, I'm not saying it's not a high level, weird, dark conspiracy, but it doesn't have to be as, it doesn't have to be as high end as that for it to be bad, is what I'm saying. What I don't like about it all is that us, the public, like the police, on the one hand, going right back to the start where, they've released this seems really weird, like, to release a press statement like this in the first place, because it's like, you don't expect the police to be doing press statements about the Masons, do you? It just seems a bit like the sort of, it feels like the sort of stuff that would have gone on conspiracy YouTube, like conspiracy stuff, and not been taken seriously. But this is actually the real world now. This is like the proper serious, you have to accept it as part of the real world, even if people think it's silliness and conspiracy. So, but one of my problems with it is that we have to now trust, because there's a lack of trust in the police, Right, this is why it's being done, because of the lack of trust in the police. We're going to trust they're going to tidy it up, and we don't get to see it. And that's my problem with it, is that they say, trust us, we're going to do a better job of making it so you can trust us. And I would say that the transparency issue about potential conflicts of interest, like maybe we should know if your investigating officer is a Mason. Like maybe we should. Like us, the public. I don't know. There's an argument on both sides of that. I can see the argument on their side, on the side of people's rights to privacy in their private lives and beliefs and stuff, and that a police is a police, isn't it? It's not, because then it's like we're gonna have to declare whether they're Christian or whether they're Jewish or whether they're Muslim or whether they're this or whether they're in the Women's Institute or whether they're in the golf club. Okay, calm down. But I don't know about that actually, because I think being in the golf club doesn't, like, the conflict of interest if my investigating officer is a golf player doesn't really affect my life, does it? Like, they're not going to be cross about me not playing golf, like, or being like, if I'm outspoken against golf, they might not really care that much. Be a bit weird if my investigating officer was a Villa fan, Blue Nose, but they might be grown up enough about that to not, like, let it colour their policing. Because being a Villa fan doesn't, like, the Villa has no hierarchical, like, demand on you to be more interested in the, like, the interests of Aston Villa versus policing. Like, you could be grown up enough to say, okay, I'm a Villa fan, but I'm going to put policing ahead of that, I think we should know. I think even if we don't know everyone's personal allegiance, I think when they do this reporting, we should know how many numbers. Like, even if we don't know personally who they are, I think we should know the numbers. They've reported all the other numbers, so I think we should know those numbers. Be scary though, wouldn't it? It's already scary, isn't it? 400 Masons running around the police. It's kind of weird though that, like, until this was made this big issue by the Masons suing the police or whatever, putting the legal action in against the police, not suing, but not until then. To be fair, actually, going back with the Daniel Morgan murder. Like, if you're into this stuff, going back to the Daniel Morgan murder, Operation Tiberius. Actually, it does matter, and it has mattered for a long time, actually. I don't know why I haven't seen it so clearly. But it's been put in clear language now by the police, so we'll keep an eye on it, I guess, won't we? We'll keep an eye on it. What time is it? 3:22. How long have I been on? Hour 22. This has been good. This is what I wanted to do. A little bit reactive to the news, but I think this is timeless content. I don't know how deeply and how seriously and repeatedly I want to investigate the Masons and stuff like that on this channel, but hopefully you've got, this is a thing that's happened. Hopefully that's explained a lot of it for people on a hopefully that's explained a lot of it, and it's given us a couple of. There's the Daniel Morgan. Like, put in comments, in chat if you want me to do an episode on the Daniel, a deep dive on the Daniel Morgan murder. It's given us a rabbit hole to follow, a thing to follow up there, and to a certain extent, Operation Tiberius as well. In as much as a YouTuber in 2025, not necessarily going to be doing an episode on Operation Tiberius from 2014, but it's given us another. Chapter to this story if we want to follow it, you know what I mean? Women in the Masons, they have their own female lodges. The Masons were very keen to point this out as well, actually, good point. But the Masons, if we go back to where they made their statement, the Masons, they're very keen to point out that whilst it's a fraternity, there's also the Order of Women Freemasons and Honourable Fraternity of Ancient Freemasons. So they're representing like a group of people. It's interesting because when I spoke to the Masons... Do you remember I made the Guy's Cliff video, the documentary about Guy's Cliff? In doing that, the reason I went there in the first place is because it was an old building and it was known to have been owned by the Masons. So I went down, I talked to them, and I was interested, and to a certain extent interested in Freemasonry and what the hell they were doing down there. But then when it became this story about this old building and all this like history, I was interested in that too. So I told the story. I did ask them specifically about Freemason. There's a bit in the film, in the documentary, about them being Freemasons. And I did ask them specifically, and he, off camera, I've got it all, you know, like not everything goes in the edit, but I did ask specifically as well about, like, you know, this whole conspiracy idea about Freemasons, and the response was that each individual lodge is separate. So, like, what they get up to in Warwick and what they get up to in London is different. So if there's a bad conspiracy in the Freemasons of Swindon, then the Freemasons of, like, Seattle don't know about it, like, or whatever. Like, you know, they're separate individual. They've got their own bank accounts. They've got their own members. They're separate. But what's interesting to me here is it's very clear that the United Grand Lodge of England seems to represent everyone as an overarching. And if we're talking about organisations of hierarchy, I've then got a question about whether being in the Masons in a small lodge capacity in your local lodge in some way connects you to the United Grand Lodge. Obviously it does in some way, doesn't it? I'm not that educated on that, but obviously it seems to, because they're representing them all in a huge legal case. So I don't know how many of the different lodges are members of the UGLE is a question I can now ask and answer, actually, as part of this. Just give me a second, I'll answer that question for you. For me, are all Masonic lodges I love the internet, it's so clever. But yeah, police are all different races, ethnicities, genders, and so are the Masons these days. Not all Masonic lodges are covered by the UGLE. Okay, the UGLE's jurisdiction is England, Wales, Isle of Man, and Channel Islands. So we're talking about the British ones, but not international. It's not covering Scotland. The Grand Lodge of Scotland is separate, a completely separate organisation. Ireland, the Grand Lodge of Ireland, is a completely separate organisation. And international. Every country has its own Grand Lodge. And apparently there's irregular Freemasonry, where some lodges aren't recognised by UGLE at all. Like Le Droit Humain, which is a co-ed and operates internationally, including in the UK. So the Met Police policy applies to all Freemasonry membership, regardless of which. This is interesting, right? The Met policy, like what the Met are asking you to do is declare it doesn't matter what kind of lodge you're in. If you're in the UGLE, if you're in the chuffing North Pole Santa believers, whatever. If you're in a secret organisation and it's secret in its hierarchy, you've got to declare it. Doesn't matter. But the Grand Lodge, the UGLE people, are arguing on behalf of their members, essentially, aren't they? So it's possible for you to be. I suppose we'd have to do a separate investigation about Masonry, but I think it's possible for you to be in a Masonic lodge that's not covered by the court thing, in terms of you might not get the argument, the protection if they pass this. It's members of the UGLE get a free pass or something, but if you're in a members of you've still got to declare it. Like, that's still part of the thing. So they'd still benefit from the court case. So the UGLE is just the one fighting it in court because they're the largest, and if they win for everyone. You know, the Travel Lodge. I'm not stopping in the Travel Lodge anymore. That's the Travel Lodge out. I'm not even going to lodge a complaint these days. Don't want any part in it. I won't even lodge a complaint. Just stay in my own lane. I do my own thing. Interesting stuff, though, yeah.